All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So this video is going to be about a multiple-time Mr. Universe winner and one of the greatest classic bodybuilders, in my opinion, in terms of overall conditioning, lines, and just the aesthetics of his physique. I feel like they were absolutely amazing. So this video is going to be about Dennis Tinerino. So Dennis Tinerino is a very good athlete to make a video about because overall his life in general was a very interesting life story. So first we're going to focus on his bodybuilding accomplishments, and then we're going to move on to talking about some of the things that he did later in life and some of the hardships that he encountered, because he had a really interesting story. So Dennis was primarily active in the 1960s and the 1970s. He won the Mr. Universe title 4 times in 68, 75, 80, and 81. He also won the Mr. World competition in 1971 and also the Mr. America in 1978. So 3 of the biggest titles in bodybuilding that you could win during those decades. So arguably he was really one of the greatest bodybuilders to come from that classic era. And again, in my opinion, his lines and his overall aesthetics were some of the best to ever come out of that era. So as far as his competitive stats go, he was 6'2", which is a relatively tall bodybuilder, and he weighed between 225 and 235 pounds on stage, or 102.1 to 106.6 kilograms. And unfortunately, he passed away on May 7th, 2010 at the age of 64, and the cause of death was cancer. So one of his most noteworthy Mr. Universe appearances, even though he didn't win, was the 1967 Mr. Universe, where he went head-to-head with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger would win that year, and Dennis would take second to him. But as a result of his really just knowing Arnold and going head-to-head with Arnold, he ended up being in the movie Hercules in New York. So that was the first major film role that Arnold Schwarzenegger had, and Dennis Tinerino kind of had a side role where he starred as Atlas. And really, he was only in maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, but I guess that was really one of his first major film roles as well. And it kind of came about as a result of that 1967 Mr. Universe. As I mentioned in that video about Arnold Schwarzenegger, where I talked more about the Hercules in New York movie, that movie role, the starring role of Hercules, was awarded to the winner of that 1967 Mr. Universe. So Arnold won that role, so I'm guessing that second place finish, that's why they awarded him Atlas. So that's what I'm guessing, but I don't know that for sure. It's also worth mentioning that at the 1977 Mr. Olympia, he had a top 6 finish at that year's Olympia. Then his final competition would be the 1984 Mr. Olympia, where he would place 14th, and then he would retire from bodybuilding after that show. So it's his life post bodybuilding that got very interesting, and that's some of the stuff I want to talk about in this video. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because there is so much interesting stuff in his life. It would make for a very long video. So after bodybuilding, Dennis got into the organized crime world. So in that world, he started arguably one of the biggest gambling and escort services in LA. And because of this, he eventually got convicted and he spent over a year in prison. So after that, he claimed during his little stint in prison, he got closer to God. So then he became an evangelist pastor after this life of crime. And then in the 90s, he would be diagnosed with terminal cancer. He said the doctor told him he had 2 weeks to live. That cancer, remarkably went into remission, and he survived. And then, of course, it came back in 2010 and ended up killing him. But overall, as a bodybuilder, he was extremely successful. Later in life, obviously, some very interesting things go along with being involved in organized crime and running a gambling ring. In addition to that, he survived a plane crash, a car crash, actually multiple car crashes, and he had multiple hitmen actually come after him because of his association with organized crime. So a very interesting life post bodybuilding, and a very interesting life during bodybuilding. Like I said, a 4-time Mr. Universe winner, Mr. World, and Mr. America. That's a very impressive bodybuilding resume and a very impressive physique to go with that. So overall, he definitely deserves his own video on this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something about a bodybuilder you may not have heard of or may not have knew much about before. Please give the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.